Welcome to Project Restoration, where we explore some of the country's oldest and finest buildings in need of restoration. Our homeowners are determined to save their historic dwellings and return them to their former glory. In Herefordshire, sandstone blocks are being cut for urgent repairs to Wilton Castle. In Worcester, John Bevan applies the pressure as he replaces lost and unstable timbers on the frame of his detached medieval kitchen. And in Kent, we're removing decades of gloss paint to reveal the original oak beams beneath. I'm heading to the Welsh Marches. Centuries ago, the area was a hotbed of military and political action, and it's here that Alan and Sue Parzlow are transforming a medieval castle ruin into a fairy tale dream. As a restoration project, Wilton Castle is even more complicated than you'd first think. It's a real mixture of buildings dating from a variety of periods. In the middle is a large Victorian farmhouse built between the remains of a Tudor manor house on one side and a 13th century castle ruin on the other. This building is like a rabbit warren. You almost need a map to get around. Not because it's particularly big, but because every door you walk through or every corridor you walk down, you suddenly find yourself in a different century. For instance, I'm now in the Georgian stairwell, but if I go through here, I'm in the Tudor wing, which was converted into the Victorian service rooms. But the best bit is through here. The heart of the house, the original 13th century castle. Now this stairway would have led to the ramparts, but if I go this way, I'm back into the Georgian wing. This is a dream come true for anyone passionate about restoration, and exactly the sort of place I would love to get my hands on. But even I would be daunted by the task they've taken on. My advice on any large-scale restoration is to focus on one area at a time, something Alan and Sue are wisely doing. They've already started on the castle's northwest guard tower. Right now it's a building site, and with a deadline of 2 months to completion, the pressure's on. Alan's taking me into the tower to show me the latest work that's been done, and I can see that the stonemasons have been busy replacing a window. Now this stone looks terrific, doesn't it?
Yes.
Are you pleased with this?
We've just had it come in. It is brand new stone. We've had to have it cut because we need a new window here.
Right.
This window just fell out and we're trying to restore it.
But Alan plans to make one major addition to the tower that will bring this 900-year-old castle into the 21st century. He's fitting glass into the windows.
If you don't put windows, the birds will be in, the rubbish will be in, and we'll be back to square one.
Do you think it would have originally been glazed?
Well, I doubt it. I expect they had shutters.
Yeah.
If people lived in here, I don't expect they had it glazed.
Yeah. Well, I shall look forward to seeing it finished.
Well, when you come back, hopefully next time the roof will be on.
In 2 months' time.
Yeah, that's what they say, but I've got my doubts.
It's unlikely Wilton Castle would have had glazed windows in the 12th century, but by the 13th century, kings and noblemen had started to fit a rough green glass into their castle windows. By the 14th century, glazed windows were common in many grand buildings. Besides, I think with any restoration, you can allow yourself modern home comforts as long as you deal with any alterations sensitively. So Ollie, you're the site foreman here on this job. I can see you've made loads of progress since I came last. This building's 700 years old. It's a real old lady. What sort of condition is it in?
She's in a terrible state. She's absolutely knackered and really needs a lot of love and attention.
Bit of TLC,
Absolutely, yes. And this is the sort of damage we're getting, just complete fracture and extremely friable surfaces.
So you're having to identify those pieces of stone so you can take them out and find a way of filling the hole.
Yeah, it's all down to economics, and it's worst comes first, really.
Well, it's looking good anyway.
Thank you very much.
Repairs are vital, especially with winter and bad weather approaching. Later, I join Alan's wife Sue at a stonecutter's, where local sandstone is cut to size for those pressing repairs to the castle. Historically, where you lived dictated what your building was made of, and at John and Nicky Bevan's small holding in Worcestershire, the local material wasn't stone, but timber. The Bevans' home is known as a cruckhouse, so called because of the curved oak timbers used in its construction. But it's John and Nicky's detached medieval kitchen that is in desperate need of restoration. The family of 10 are squeezed into a small kitchen within the cruckhouse. Restoring the original kitchen would give them much more space, but the building is only just standing, with much of its original oak frame either missing or badly in need of repair. John's already had a locally felled oak cut on site. It's these beams he's using to secure the side frames of the kitchen. Where possible, John is preserving the original medieval timbers, splicing in the newly cut beams where the old ones are beyond repair.
We've got to preserve as many of the original timbers as possible. This is one that was quite badly damaged. It had a whopping great hole here and a peg here. This is a reused timber, but they still want to preserve it.
You won't find many nails in a timber-framed house. The joints are designed to tighten as the green oak shrinks with age. As a master cabinet maker, John knows how to work with wood, and he's cutting many of the joints by hand.
I'm making the mortise to take the tenon, which I've cut already in the workshop. This one was put in before we could cut it in the workshop, so we put this one in the hard way by hand now. And hopefully that should then all slide up and go together in the next 10 minutes or so.
When originally built, a team of workers would have lifted this first load-bearing beam in place. It's a heavy piece of wood, which 3 strong men struggle to cope with.
Down a bit more.
With the beam safely underpinned, John attempts to use the forklift to push it into place. The ancient building creaks and groans as the beam is forced into position. Too much pressure from John and several tons of medieval wood would come crashing down. Thankfully, the building can take the strain, and John can finally secure the new joints with the wooden pegs. It's like a giant jigsaw puzzle. Everything has a specific place, and it all fits tightly together. It's great to see that John's making every effort to rescue as many of the original timbers as possible. He's planning to compromise with modern materials in other parts of the build, but I'm pleased to see he's sticking to tradition with the original timber frame. Now over to Kent, where the owner of a medieval hall house is trying to rejuvenate some beams that are suffering a rather different problem. Glen Beamsen is hoping to reveal the beauty of his medieval timbers, which have been coated with decades of modern gloss paint. The house was built in 1465 and is typical of the medieval period, with its original wattle and daub, inglenook fireplaces and countless timber beams. And this is where the problems lie. The internal beams have all been caked in thick black gloss, hiding their true splendour and original colour.
What we have here are the old oak beams that were there when the house was built. Originally these would have been undressed. You'd have seen the actual grain of the oak, and that would have weathered with time to a nice kind of silvery grey colour. And then what happened was, as fashions changed, people decided to paint these beams gloss black. Now what we'd like to do is take all of this gloss off and just bring the oak back to its original kind of rich colour, so we can see the grain really and really see the house how it was meant to be.
Specialist paint remover David Court has come to advise Glen on the best way to remove the paint. He thinks a chemical poultice would be the best way to shift the paint without damaging the wood. The paste has to be spread on in a thick layer, making sure there are no air bubbles. Safety goggles and gloves are a must because of the strength of the chemicals.
So the next step is to cover the coated beam with a light polythene. We just stick it to the poultice.
The plastic shouldn't be pressed on too hard, otherwise it might thin the poultice. And the beams should be left like this for 24 hours. A beam that was treated yesterday is ready to be checked. After removing the plastic, Glen gently scrapes off as much of the dried up poultice as he can, being careful not to dig into the wood. At first, the results seem disappointing. The beam still looks like it's covered in paint.
The beam still looks black, but what the poultice would have done is like a poultice on a wound. It would have drawn out all the poison.
Yeah.
It's going to draw out the stain out of the wood.
With most of the poultice scraped off, Glen can now scrub the beams with a hard, bristled brush and some warm water. There are several alternatives to stripping paint off wood. Using chemical solvents is a much better choice than a sandblaster, as it damages the wood underneath the paint. A poultice such as Glen is using today simply sits on the timber and gently draws out the paint, leaving the ancient beams unharmed.
So how do I get these little pieces out here that are still kind of stuck in the grain?
Well, this is where it's handy to have all sorts of different shapes and sizes of brushes.
Yeah.
Because you need to be able to get in all these little holes and cracks and things to get the product out. It's like any other DIY job, there's a fair amount of hard work and elbow grease that goes into it.
Yeah. Repeat with elbow grease as necessary. That's right. That's the theme.
It's a messy job, so floors and walls should be protected. Glen works on a small area at a time and constantly washes down the wood with clean water. Before long, the paint has been removed, revealing the beautiful natural pattern of the oak.
I think it looks superb. I mean, when you look at what we started with and then what we've got here, and you can see the grain of the wood starting to come through here. You can see the amount of rubbish that it's pulling off. It's brilliant. It's exactly what I was looking for. It's really important in a house like this. You know, it's timber framed. If you don't look after the timbers, then the rest of the house just falls to pieces, really.
Alan and Sue Parzlow are repairing huge cracks in the stonework of their 13th century castle tower. Centuries of neglect has allowed the weather to invade the walls of the tower, and it's prized the masonry apart. They're going to have to make solid repairs before they continue with the rest of the build. With winter just around the corner, they'll have to get a move on. They're following the advice of English heritage and have sourced a mill which provides sandstone similar to that used to build the castle 9 centuries ago. Traditionally, there were quarries throughout the country, and the sandstone originally used in the castle was available only a few miles away. Today, the nearest quarry and mill is over 30 miles away, so Sue and I have driven over to pick up some more sandstone blocks for the repairs. These huge 2-ton blocks are being cut into more manageable pieces for work at the castle. Once there, the stonemasons can cut them into the variety of shapes and sizes they've been using to rebuild walls, recreate staircases, and right now, repair fractures in the turret. It's fantastic to see the whole process, isn't it? To think that this has come out of the ground, it's been cut up, and here they are, the stones ready to repair your wonderful house. Okay, let's go for it. The blocks that have just been cut will be handy for the masons to have as soon as possible, so we take what we can back with us. I hope you're feeling strong, Sue. Now, I would just like to say that this job is made considerably more difficult by our flat tyre. Okay, otherwise we'd whip up this hill like nobody's business, wouldn't we?
We would, Marianne, yes. Is that hill?
Back at the castle, the blocks are broken up into even smaller chunks. Some pieces are used to rebuild walls, while others are used for stitching and filling the rather dramatic crack in the turret's outside wall. That goes all the way up the tower, does it?
Yes, quite extensive, and there's a lot of division between these cornerstones.
So the tower is basically going like that.
That's right.
Spreading
yeah,
at the
it's
top.
like a flower. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, how do you decide how to fill that void there?
In that case, it's too small for stone replacement,
You're right.
but it's too large for just a pure sort of mortar joint.
Yeah.
So this is the most sort of successful technique.
Sort of a halfway house.
That's right. Yeah.
So can I have a go then, Ollie?
Be my guest.
So what sort of mortar is this that you're using?
This is a hydraulic lime mortar.
Right. Tile repairs are a good example of an honest repair, which means that there's no attempt to disguise the modern work or make it look older than it is. I don't have a problem with this. In fact, I think it's a great way of adding to the building's evolution. Right, well, hopefully that'll last another 700 years then, with a bit of luck. There's still the rest of the crack to fill, but once it's done, Alan and Sue can be satisfied that the tower is safe and solid. And with the new window installed, they can now turn their attention to the next part of the restoration, splitting the tower into 2 levels by adding a new oak floor. Before Alan and Sue bought Wilton Castle, it had suffered from years of neglect. It has actually deteriorated beyond repair in some places. Now let's face it, maintenance isn't a sexy word, but it's actually the key to preserving an old house. So here are some tips to help you help your home. Firstly, gutters and downpipes. Make sure they're regularly cleared and are effectively discharging water away from the building. Secondly, windowsills. Keep them well decorated. A bare sill will rot far more quickly than a well-painted one. And thirdly, remember, if you have a slipped slate or a missing tile, patch it as quickly as you can, because in this instance, a stitch in time definitely saves 9. I'm on my way now to Worcestershire to see how John Bevan's medieval kitchen is coming along. And I'm amazed. The shell I first saw here only 4 months ago has been transformed. Well, I am really impressed. I think you've come on leaps and bounds since I saw this building last. It's fantastic. And
Yes.
when I was here last, there was just that enormous trunk that you were sawing up down in the yard.
Yes.
What's happened to that?
It's been cut up, and some of these are from that trunk.
Wow. I love that, being able to see it come from the tree into the building and that sort of conversion.
And that's very satisfying.
Oh, it's brilliant. And I'm intrigued by the colour of this oak as well.
Yes, we've actually burnt this
Right.
to give it that aging
Because
appearance.
it would have been this colour originally.
Yes.
And I must say, I love this window. I think it's absolutely superb. It's very rare you see people going to the lengths of
Plantons.
plant-on windows, is that what you call them? So they're actually fixed to the outside rather than being sort of flush with the wall.
Yes.
Is there any evidence that these windows were in the building originally?
No.
So there's a little bit of
Yes.
artistic licence in that.
Yes.
And I suppose being a joiner, you just can't quite resist
Yes.
putting a few fancy bits onto the building.
No, it's just got to give that bit of flair, almost. Or try to.
Yeah. Understandably, John wants to use his talents to the best of his ability on his own home. However, there's one thing I've spotted where I'm not in agreement with John: the infill panels. Now, you have gone to great lengths with almost everything on this building to be authentic. Beautiful traditional windows, aged oak frame. But that is not wattle and daub, is it, John?
No.
What is
certainly
it?
not. It's just a high insulation panel, which should create a lot of more warmth.
Right, so it's basically
Yes.
polystyrene slab.
Yes.
Yeah. So come on, what's your argument for using that rather than wattle and daub?
Got a higher insulation value.
Yeah.
It's cheaper to put in. It's a lot quicker. we'll make it look like a traditional panel.
So it has a wobble on it, an
yes,
undulation.
It won't be smooth. I do not want smooth plaster on a building like this.
I'm not entirely convinced on that one, I've got to say. So it's basically an economy. It's
Yes.
You spent a fortune on the rest of it.
Yes.
This is the area where you're making a cutback.
Yes.
Okay.
I think it's a way you can make a cutback without losing too much of the
Right.
authenticity of the house.
His reason for using modern insulation panels rather than wattle and daub is to keep the costs down, which I understand, if reluctantly. John's reason for burning the new timbers is so they look as old as those in the cruckhouse next door. But this is not what I call honest repair. I think you should be able to see where the old meets the new. But I can't get annoyed with John. He's bringing a great spirit to this restoration and has followed tradition in many other ways. He's rebuilt the timber frame using a local felled oak tree, and he's used local stonemasons to build walls and plinths. He's taking on more than most people would dare, and is enjoying seeing his dream take shape.